Welcome back, scientists, for part 2, understanding the effect of fat on our body. So here we've got the model again, and just to remind ourselves that the job of the heart is to pump blood around the body, and the blood carries oxygen and nutrients to all the parts of our body. And this model represents a healthy heart, and you can see the blood travelling through the arteries and the veins effortlessly. We also learned that the body needs fat and that the body controls how much fat it stores. And it also, in the liver, makes something called bile, which breaks down the fat that we don't need to store, that we don't want in our body, and helps us get rid of it. But today we're going to think about what happens when we have too much fat in our diet. Actually, all the cells in our body begin to swell up with that fat, and they can even begin to leak into our organs, and you can get excess fat in your liver and your heart and other organs too. And this can be really problematic, causing things such as heart disease, for one example. So it's really important that we're kind to our body and we eat the right amount of fat. I'm going to show you now a quick example, a quick demonstration to show the difference between a healthy artery and vein, which has enough fat for all the right reasons, to give you energy and to help you grow and to insulate your body, and what happens when your arteries or your veins have got too much excess, we say too much fat. Okay, so here I've just got a vase. Here I've got a glass straw, and this glass straw is going to represent an artery or a vein in our body. I've got a jug here with some red food colouring in, and this water is just representing blood. So here we've got the vein. I'm going to pour some blood through the vein. And you can see it's travelling, just like in our model, effortlessly through the vein. Okay, so that was a good, clean, healthy artery and vein. Here I've got a second glass straw, but you'll notice the difference. At the top here, I've put some butter into the straw, into the vein and artery. This represents the excess fat which some people have in their bodies when they haven't been mindful of eating the right foods. So I'm just going to stick my second artery into the vase. The only purpose of the vase is just to make sure I'm not making a mess everywhere. Here I've got the water again with the red food colouring, and I'm going to pour through the blood through the vein and the artery. Now you can see it's travelling perfectly well at the top, but it's beginning to get stuck here where the fat is, and it's struggling to get through the fat because there's actually a bit of a hold up, a little bit of a delay here. You can imagine, can't you, how dangerous that would be inside the human body if your heart couldn't push the blood around your body. That means you're not getting oxygen and nutrients to every part of your body at the right time as you need it. So too much fat is definitely not a good idea. And today we've got a worksheet all about Lacey and Aman, and they're having an argument to find out which is better for you, a tracker bar or a chocolate bar. And you're going to do something called the brown paper test to find out if there is too much fat in one or the other, or perhaps both the bars, the treat bars, are as bad as one another. So it's called the brown paper bag experiment. So guess what you need? A brown paper bag. And this one is just the bag that I got in the local supermarket, which my bananas were wrapped up in. If you don't go and, if you're not actually going into the supermarket to buy anything, but you're passing by, I'm sure children, if you popped in and said, I'm doing a science experiment for school, please could I borrow or have a brown paper bag, they would let you have one. And then you'd be able to have a go at some of the foods on the list. If you haven't got all the foods listed in the ingredients on your worksheet, don't worry, just have a go at a few instead. Because really what I want you to understand from today's lesson is how you can tell if there is fat in the foods that you eat. Now remember, it is important to have fat in your body. So some of the foods that you will test today will prove that there's fat in your body, and that's very good for your body. But what you've got to think about is making sure that you don't have too much fat. Okay, so I've just said we're going to do the brown paper bag. Now you've got different ingredients to complete your science experiment today, but I'm going to model the brown paper bag to you. You may have heard of this even in cartoons such as The Simpsons. I know when Homer in one episode is trying to be mindful of his diet, and he quite simply rubs different types of foods onto the brown paper bag to find out if it contains fat or not. And what will happen is if the food does contain fat, then the bag will appear shiny. It will begin to look translucent. And that means if you held it up to the light, you could see the light through the brown paper bag and it would look shiny in appearance. And that tells us that there are lipids present. Lipids are fats, and lipids do not dissolve in water. Other foods containing lots of water might make a stain to begin with, but if you leave the brown paper bag for 24 hours, then the water will obviously dry up, and so the stain will dry and disappear as well. However, any lipids present, any fat present, will remain, so there'll be little spots of shiny spots where you've put foods that contain lipids. So it's important to mark your paper so you know what you have used. So here I'm going to just make a list of the ingredients that I'll be testing today. So I am going to be testing a piece of orange. I'm going to be testing milk. I'm going to test some oil. I'm going to test some butter. And I'm going to test, oh, I thought I had one more thing, but no, maybe not. Oh, a grape. I think it may have rolled off. A grape. And I'm also going to test some chicken, if I can find my grape. So there you go. On my brown paper bag, I have labelled the different types of food that I'm going to test today. And quite simply, I just need to put a little sample by each bit. So hopefully you can read the labels, children. So at the top, I've got my orange. So I'm just going to see if I can pierce the orange and make a little mark of orange, little squirt of orange onto the brown paper. And at the moment, as I've said, because it contains water, it's made a little watermark there. And it hasn't made a shiny, translucent mark. But I'm going to leave it 24 hours just to see what the effect is after it's dried. Here, I've got a little bit of milk. I've got the medicine syringe, so remember, if you do have to use a syringe, and please ask your parents if you can use this. Do not go near the medicine cabinet by yourself. Is it going to work, Mrs. Finnegan? It's too much at the bottom. I know what I'll do. I'm just going to get a bit of dab of milk and put a dab of milk on here. What do you predict as you're doing this? Start to have a think to yourself. What do we know about milk? We used it in yesterday's experiment. Will you expect it to be containing fat, to be containing lipids? What about the oil? Suck up a bit of oil with my syringe. And here we go, just underneath the word oil. I'm just going to place a drop. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Okay, straight away, it's quite a different mark that it's made already. Here at the bottom, I've got chicken, so I'm going to rub a bit of chicken on there. What do you know about fat? We know it's got protein in, which is good for our body. But will it contain fat? What do you think? I'll rub it in, we'll see. And then I did have a grape, but as I suspected, it has rolled off the table, so never mind. But I do have a little bit of butter, so I'm going to rub the butter here. Okay. Now, all of these ingredients are things that you should have around your home. If, as I said earlier on, there is anything missing, don't worry about it. You're going to just do the best you can. Most important thing is you find out how you establish if there is fat in the food, and you can make a sensible guess if you're not capable of carrying the experiment out this time at home. I'm sure you can still complete the worksheet and figure out whether Lacey or Iman are right in their argument. So I've got my brown paper bag here. I've put on different food samples, put it down before it starts to drip, because obviously if it's dripping down, it's going to affect my results, isn't it? I've made it a fair test by putting the same amounts in each area as best as I can. And obviously the variables are the different food types that I'm using. So your next job really is to go away and have a look at your worksheet and continue this test yourself to find out which foods have got lipids and fats in. And I want you to be clear in your mind that fats are good for the body, but today we've just had a little look at what happens if there's too much in your body, and why it is so important to have a very healthy, balanced diet whereby we do have plenty of fruit and vegetables, and we do have fats and carbohydrates and proteins too. It's important to eat lots of different types of food. As we learnt yesterday, if you're eating the healthy food but you're not having the right fats to help you absorb the goodness from those foods, then actually it's pointless eating those good foods. So we do need all the food types. There we go. So just one last look at the brown paper bag test. You can see from the chicken, actually it is shiny. I can almost see my finger through the bottom of it. I don't know if it's coming across very well. Same with the butter. So just from the early observations, the butter and the chicken are containing fat. The milk will have to wait until it dries out, because at the moment it looks very similar to the orange sample, and the oil again is looking shiny and translucent actually. So we can see that the oil, the chicken and the butter contain fat. We're waiting to find out more information about the milk, but I'm sure you can make a good prediction. And what do you expect this orange juice stain to look like by tomorrow when it's dried out? Thank you for listening beautifully. Have fun with your science lesson today, Year 6.